Alright, today we're gonna talk about why I think Courtney Love allegedly is a CIA asset and why I believe she was a honeypot all along for entertainment purposes only. If you are incapable of thinking outside the box, if you're a teeny bopper normie, this video is not for you and this channel is not for you either. I'm not for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put that out there. There's like 8 planets in fucking Aries right now. I'm on a roll here, you guys. If you can't think outside the box, this video is not for you. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you just don't. It's fine. Okay? But save me the grief and keep on moving. It's not for you. This is for people who think outside the box and think outside the box only. This video is for people who can read between the lines and who are nuanced thinkers and who use their discernment. So why do I think she's a CIA asset? Not agent, asset. Okay, she's not eloquent enough to be an agent. Now, why is that? It's interesting when you think about it. She was in, Ireland in the 80s? England in the 80s? She was around in San Francisco, around in Seattle, around in LA. Every single music scene in rock you could think of during those periods, right? So from the 80s to the 90s, she was there. At the right place, at the right time, distributing. Does that not sound MK Ultra to you? It's weird. I mean, she talks about this stuff. I was watching American Spy Fox last night and I tagged his video in this description and you guys should check out that interview. There's this guy named John Potash who wrote a book, a few books actually, and a movie, but in one of the books in particular, I pulled up a picture so you guys can look into it. I'm planning on buying this myself. So it's basically about how the government or the CIA, the shadow figures, the shadow government, went on to target musicians and drop drugs in them so that they can shape their message. And it's pretty much MK Ultra. Everything we know about MK Ultra, that's it. And so this guy wrote an extensive book about it. I just wanted to make this point really quick. You look at every single band, right? They may move once, maybe to LA or to New York to make it big because their small town isn't doing it for them. And that's usually the case in every single biography of these bands, okay? So you could look to Metallica. They're from LA. They moved to San Francisco because the thrash metal scene was huge there. And then they blow up, right? They're not in England, Ireland, Japan doing heroin for the first time with a Filipino shipping tycoon. That's not their story, right? Also, I said on TikTok, like, how is she just casually friends with coroners? Is that not weird to you? How is it that she got knocked up 4 months into their relationship with Kurt, and then they get married shortly after? The duration of their relationship, that whole thing lasted for, 2.5 years? Sounds like a honeypot to me. It makes so much sense. You know, this is a Erica Kirk situation. Actually, even better than Erica Kirk, because again, Kurt already had that image, you know, oh, I do drugs, oh, I'm kind of depressed, oh, I'm moody, this, and that. Talk more about this on TikTok, but you know, the whole Italy situation. I watched a woman who was present at the Nirvana show in Italy when he had his accident, not first attempt. The media reported it as a first attempt. She met Pat Smear, allegedly. She met Kurt, she saw him face to face, like she was really up close and she was there. She said he was excited to play. This was on Michelle Wilkins' podcast. I think it's called Who Killed Kurt Cobain. I'll drop it in the description so you guys could watch it. But I thought that was really interesting. When you watch those 2 interviews, this guy John Potash, I hope I'm saying his name right. What he thinks happened is when Kurt was in Italy, he wanted to see his daughter Frances Bean. Courtney came out and brought Frances to him, and then with her prescription, because at that point he wasn't on anything, he was just there, ready to play. She came over and then with her prescription slipped something into his drink, and that's where we get the first attempt. The accident angle makes more sense because it lines up with Rosemary Carroll and her voice being recorded and soaked in bleach. She wasn't talking about Kurt's time in Italy like it was an attempt. When he went missing, she wasn't talking about him like he was an addict. She sounded worried, actually, like, why is he missing? There was no talk in that. I can't say it because of censorship. And same with Mark Lanigan. I think in a book, again, American Spy Fox covers this really well, but he mentions like that Mark said in a book or an audio recording of his book that Rosemary Carroll was very sharp. She worked with him as well. She was sharp. She's no BS type of woman. And she's over here calling him like he's missing. So it doesn't sound like someone is out to end their lives. It sounds more so like somebody bounced, like within the quickness. It sounds like Kurt, was running away from his honeypot wife. That's what it sounds like, allegedly. That's what it sounds like to me. Also, I learned another new thing from that John Potash interview. I didn't realize that Courtney was so deep in it with Kevin and Stephen O'Leary. So now it makes so much sense why nothing ever happens to her. And now my new theory on Dave Grohl is that the reason, it's like a Paul McCartney, he can't say anything because she's an asset. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's, oh, he's afraid because he doesn't want to complicate Frances Bean's life. That's what I thought at first. And maybe then that's part of it because, you know, he has a daughter of his own too. But I think it's more so because she's an asset. I think that's what it is. It just painted a fuller picture to me now. Because I'm like, so she's in every music scene you could fucking think of from the 80s to 90s, she's at the right place, at the right time, distributing psychedelics. Kind of sounds like the CIA to me. She was selling her body from a very young age. That world is normalized to her. And then her grandparents were really wealthy. She even says so in an interview. I mean, I think allegedly, they had shares in Johnson & Johnson. They were friends with the mayor of San Francisco. I don't know, but it's something worth looking into. Dylan Carlson, allegedly his dad was in the DOJ. Like, what's going on? It's never a good time when these musicians, because, you know, look at Laurel Canyon scene, right? All these musicians and their parents were in the government or the high military. Also, Kristen Paff. She was the bass player before Melissa, whatever her last name is, entered the band. And again, she was the session player before Melissa. And I think that they're all session players, really. She passed away not long after Kurt in Seattle. And the way she was found was so weird. She had no clothes on. She was bent over in the tub, on like kneeling over, an inch or two submerged in water. It wasn't like the tub was filled with water, you know? And I think this has a lot to do with why Eric, the other bandmate from Hole, I think this is why he won't do an interview anymore. Really, like a real sit down. It's really weird because he was there that day. Kristen's family didn't allow anyone in Hole to attend the funeral. That in itself is a red flag. Why not? Because if you guys were chill and close with the family, or, you know, they had respect for them giving their daughter an opportunity to join this huge rock band, you know, I see rock stars attend their bandmates' funerals all the time throughout my life. They weren't allowed. So that should raise some questions right there. But despite this, Eric showed up. He draped himself. This is the story. He draped himself over her casket, and the parents had security escort him out of the funeral. Do what you will with that information. But I think it's really interesting that when she was found, you know, not responding, he calls Courtney. It sounds like Erica Kirk. Like, how does she have all these connections to worm her way out of things? In and out of things. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know any musician in my real life, one, that's friends with coroners, like casually, and two, that has these types of connections. Unless they were contracted by an intelligence agency. Perhaps. Again, so check out American Spy Fox, check out Who Killed Kurt Cobain. They're both here on YouTube. It's really interesting because now a lot of people that were around during that time are coming forward and they're just talking. And it paints a completely different picture. We also have, like I said, that interview with John Potash, who wrote this book. It just ties it in because the official Kurt Cobain case, you know, the way they found him, the shotgun, how large it was, the fact that he pulled the trigger with his toe, though he had his sneakers on, the fact that Mark Lanigan and Dylan Carlson and Tom Grant couldn't smell a decomposing body. What the neighbors that lived behind Kurt's house had to say in that moment, it doesn't make sense. There's too many holes. Doesn't make sense for anybody that actually looked at it for what it was. Also, there is an attempt in Italy, but it was reported an accident initially. All the people that were in Kurt's house the night before, The cops didn't think to investigate that. So many eyewitnesses at that house witnessing the scene as it is, and the cops didn't think to investigate that. That is, I've never seen an investigation botched so badly. This is probably one of the biggest scandals in modern rock history ever. I'll put that and then John Lennon up there and Jimi Hendrix, because what the fuck are we talking about at this point? Also, can you imagine being Candace Owens right now? She's doing this whole deep dive on Erica Kirk. In one of her past videos, she's like, oh, well, you know, Courtney Love reached out to me because she was watching my Chaos series. You know, I was reading that book Chaos and it just blew my mind. And now she said that allegedly the CIA, MK Ultra were the ones who killed Kirk. And now she's thinking about writing a book about the MK Ultra and how they what? Lady, sometimes things are just so close to your face you can't see it. Like, I don't get it. Like, can you imagine doing a deep dive on a honeypot just to cross paths with another one? Ha! Insane. You can't make this shit up. So, yeah, apparently Courtney Love is writing a book about MK Ultra and how that works. I think it's also crazy that she moves back to LA from England during, I think it was like the third or second dump of the Epstein files. I thought that was interesting. She goes through these long stretches of silence, and then the minute someone mentions the Epstein files, the Kurt Cobain case, how it really doesn't make sense because now we have social media and people are really using their discernment. Then she comes out with an interview. Then she comes out with montage of heck when Soaked in Bleach was dropped just a few months prior. So it's always interesting timing. I'm telling you, when you look at it for what it is and follow it closely, it's interesting timing. So she wants to write this fucking book. Well, I think it's good that she does, because it's the more she talks, you know. She is an insider after all. It'll be interesting if she changes her mind on that as well. If you want, you can go on my TikTok. I'm under the same name except there's a dot, hallucination.nation. And I've talked about this before there. And then I discovered more there. So I'm just saying. I grew up right outside of Hollywood, and I've seen a lot of interesting things take place throughout my life. And I can see how money can sway someone to go really far, and sometimes in the wrong direction. I've seen it many times, to the point where I actually moved out to Washington State when I was 20. I wanted to get away from all this weird energy out here, but we're gonna wrap it up here on YouTube because there's only so much I can say on TikTok.